Thank you, everybody, for coming to the College Football Betting with Aaron Torres YouTube channel. Before we get to the video that you came here for, if you could do me one quick favor, just click that subscribe button at the bottom of the screen. Really does help our channel grow, our audience grow. I appreciate it more than you know. Also, if you want to, click the little bell notification so you know anytime any of our previews go live. We appreciate your support. Now, here's the video that you came here for. This was the game that, maybe in a different world where Billy Napier knows how to manage the clock, maybe this game leads the show, okay? But now it is in the B block. It is after the break. Florida going to LSU. The spread in this one, Circa Sports has it as, in the Circa Sports book, have it as LSU as an 8.5-point favorite. The over-under set at 47. Listen, I think we know the narratives coming into this game, and I think it obviously starts with the Florida Gators. Listen, I have tried to defend Billy Napier, and I really thought the momentum that he built late last year, starting ironically with a win against LSU at home, I thought he had turned a corner. I thought he had figured it out, and it just all came crash and burn down last weekend. Now, listen, we don't need to relitigate everything, but context does matter here. And I mean this sincerely. I don't know that I have ever seen a coach in the final 3 minutes of a game make more wrong decisions than I saw from Billy Napier in those final 3 minutes. The 2 pass attempts, when you get the ball back, 2:49, you can run clock, you can make them call timeouts, you pass the ball twice. You have to punt before the 2-minute timeout, giving them basically extra plays. You have the spitting incident, which, as we've talked about on the Aaron Torres pod, in a post-Jalen Carter world, just totally unacceptable. And then those final couple minutes where you're not using your timeouts, you're letting the clock run, then you're using the timeouts, then you should probably let them score so you have a little bit of time left. They kick the field goal as time expires. USF is the deserved winner. It doesn't change the fact that Billy Napier screwed that thing 7 ways to Sunday and deserves all of the criticism that he got. I think in addition to all of the normal criticism, there's a couple other things as well from that game. One, as we started to look ahead to this game, we just talked about this with Alabama, Wisconsin, and Alabama losing in week 1 to Florida State. But with Florida, I did think it was kind of interesting. Why did you abandon Jaden Ball? And I was thinking about this. Is it possible that Billy Napier in his head assumed that South Florida was going to be a convincing win, and he said in his head, I want 10 to 15, 15 to 20 carries for Jaden Ball, and that was the game plan going in? Because there's no other explanation for why they went away from the run late when Jaden Ball was actually probably one of the few bright spots on that offense last week. 18 carries, 93 yards, over 5 yards per carry. And they just kind of went away from him and kind of didn't feature him late. And I just wonder if, again, Billy Napier in his head was like, you know what? We got to save him for this tough stretch coming up. It's like, no, Billy Napier, you got to win the USF game. You got to win the USF game. So you have that. You also have, we have to acknowledge, DJ Lagway appears to have regressed. Now, it's not all his fault. His receivers dropped some passes. And if you're only looking at the stat sheet, 74% completion percentage, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception, how can you say that? Well, one, first of all, it's worth noting, what do you go? 15 of 18 against Long Island. So there's that. 2, something's not right. A couple wide receivers are injured. Couple drops last week. But also, you do wonder, DJ Lagway wasn't a participant in spring, didn't throw, missed some time in fall camp. You just wonder if maybe the timing isn't there with the receivers, with the group, with the this, with the that. It's just something to think about and something to consider, because it's something that I can't quite put my finger on as to why we have a situation where DJ Lagway doesn't really look like he's improved. Again, the percentage is good, but the actual production, I'm not quite as sold on. So that's the Florida offense. The Florida defense, can we make sweeping judgments after dominating Long Island and then last week not so much against USF? I think you could say a few things, but I think USF, one, is a unique matchup problem because Byron Brown is so good with his legs. Again, I'll have reaction and takes on the Florida offense. I just don't know that I can have definitive ones on the Florida defense. And I do think, obviously, Garrett Nussmeier is not a guy that can beat you with their legs. And again, I analogize the Florida loss to USF with the Florida State win over Alabama, Alabama abandoning the run, Alabama losing to a quarterback that can make plays with his legs. It's kind of the same with Florida. I'm not ready to give up on the whole defense just because Byron Brown is a really good quarterback. Let's talk a little LSU. And it's really interesting because LSU, for those of you who listen to the Aaron Torres pod, which you should, by the way, I actually did an SEC power ranking on Monday, and I had LSU at number 1. A lot of controversy with that decision. And I just bring it up because, I think there's a lot of different ways to look at LSU. LSU, of course, in week 1 goes to Clemson and gets the victory. And many, including me, just sat there and said, incredible victory. Clemson's amazing. You go on the road, you get the win. You're unbelievable. And then you peel back the layers and you say, well, actually, Clemson really could have lost to Troy. What were they down? 16-0 at the half. And LSU did not look great offensively against Louisiana Tech last week. They do put up 23 points, but it was just kind of a sloppy performance, a sloppy just overall effort. Garrett Nussmeier, I'll say this, I was a little lower on him coming into the year than most. And I bring it up because last Saturday was kind of the Garrett Nussmeier experience. 26 of 41, so 63 or so completion percentage, under 6 yards per completion. Again, I'm not saying he's bad. I just question, number 1 overall pick type talent. And then I think as importantly, the run game, which had been so good against Clemson, was fine against Louisiana Tech, but was not great. Let's go ahead and make a pick, because the one thing that I did not mention is the LSU defense. And before we even get to the pick, I should say this, is the projection on this game, my pick on this game, it reminds me in some ways, I know I'm making a lot of weird analogies, but if you listen to this show before the Ohio State-Texas game, my analysis on that game was pretty simple. Texas has a new starting quarterback. Ohio State has a new starting quarterback. Ohio State has an entirely new defense, with 2 new coordinators. What is the one thing that I know about that game? I know that Texas's defense is going to be filthy. I probably should have taken the under there. Instead, I went ahead and took Texas plus the points. Well, I only bring it up because I'm not going to make that mistake again. And as I look at this game, I have no idea what's going on with Florida's offense. I think LSU's offense is good, but maybe not as good as I thought. Florida's defense, we'll see. The one unit, believe it or not, that I trust inherently, it's actually that LSU defense. So that is a long way and a long-winded way of me saying that I'm taking LSU, Florida, the under of 47. And I think why is pretty simple. The LSU defense is legit, okay? LSU in that game against Clemson was flying all over, and I think you could just see the talent upgrade is clearly there. Patrick Payton's awesome. Jamari Butler's awesome, both transfers. A.J. Halsey, when he was off of suspension in the second half, was awesome. Harold Perkins, they finally figured out what to do with all of his immense talents. And then, oh, by the way, on top of it, Blake Baker, year 2, that system. And so the more that I look at it, the more that I just think the one thing I trust is that LSU defense. And I think, by the way, part of it is the LSU defense with the Billy Napier offense. They do not play tempo. Billy Napier, I'm trying not to be too critical, but this has been the problem with Florida fans from the beginning. The play calling is uninteresting. It's whatever. It's this, it's that, but it's, they're not going to march up and down the field and put up 35 points on the road. I don't even think that's the way Billy Napier wants to coach this team or coach this game. So to me, I do think LSU wins. This has kind of like a 24-14-ish type feel. Go ahead and give me the under of 47. Again, I'll say LSU 24, Florida 14.